Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The San Jose Sharks have gone 3-0 with Logan Couture returning to the lineup. Was this the medicine the Sharks needed? We'll talk about all that and more after this. But first, if you'd like to be a part of the show and join the conversation, chat with us across all of the social media apps, that being the YouTube chat, the X Machine, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, Reddit, Discord, and all the shenanigans going down over on the TikToks. Check out all of that and more over at tealtownusa.com. And if you like supporting the podcast, check us out over at Venmo at TealTownUSA. It always helps out the pod, and well, you know exactly where it goes to. It goes to the Buckeye Gets Better Internet Fund. Well, I am happy to be joined by Mr. Ian Reed. Ian, how are you doing this evening?
I'm good. When the Sharks do good, it's good. I mean, I usually save that for the end of the show, but I'm just gonna say it right off the hop here. The chat seems in a good mood tonight. I was surprised. I mean, it's probably coming, but I thought we were going to see a lot more. Oh my God, the tank! What are we doing? What are we doing? It'll come.
Yeah. I mean, look, we have been talking about this ad nauseum about, hey, let's just have some good losses. Let's just have some, positive things to talk about. Really, with the return of Logan Couture, I mean, it seems like the team has definitely gotten that. It's almost like the coach firing dead cat bounce, but that initial shot of adrenaline or what have you into the veins. And Logan has been a real pleasant surprise to see him on the ice. I mean, I really haven't expected much from him, and you can definitely see the sheltering his minutes and easing him in, but. Again, I feel like having him back just on the ice at any function at all does a lot for the team. It stretches the lineup out. It does a lot of things with your center depth. And Ian, I mean, quite frankly, it's the heart and soul of the team.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I said many times during the season when Couture was out. It's like the thing with the Sharks was that you just had to really shut down Hertl's line. That was it. That was your one job defending the San Jose Sharks. Just shut down Hertl. It was fine. Right now, Couture coming back into the lineup does give you an option to kind of spread your firepower a little bit. Not to say that other guys couldn't score without Couture there, but I think Couture being back, you can kind of spread out some of your offensive weapons. And not just kind of load them up on the Hertl line, and that gives coaches a few looks that they have to deal with instead of just one. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it's been good, right? I think Couture. I was worried that Couture was going to score in the overtime there because, I think that Couture being back, and I said this on last night's show too. If you haven't watched that, you should go check it out. I said this last night's show too. Like, I feel like as the season progresses, like I give Couture a lot of credit for how he's come back and how he's looked so far, but I kind of want to see what happens when the games start adding up, right? Because I think it's easy to come back with a fistful of energy, but it's hard to get into mid-season form when you haven't played for the whole season. So I'm curious to see if there's any like a little bit of drop off as the initial adrenaline wears off and then you're kind of getting into the grind of the season. I'm curious to see how Couture adds to that. But I mean, so far so good, right? I think it's definitely been a nice shot in the arm for the team. And yeah, I mean, like I said, when the Sharks do good, it's good.
Well, I mean, Ian, let's just quickly talk about that before we, dive into the game overall as itself. He could be coming back at kind of a good time to mitigate what you're saying. And the reason why I'm saying that is because you've got the All-Star break / mini bye week kind of coming up, right? You
Yep.
get him into these sets of games right now before all of that happens, kind of get his feet wet, get him, kind of ripping and ready to go. And then everybody kind of gets a built-in reset with the break.
Sure.
And then you've got a little bit of time where you've got to start back up again. First couple of games are kind of rusty, and it's all we always see it. So maybe in a roundabout way, by having to go through that part of the grind, you can kind of mitigate that after, I don't know, 5 to 7 game drop off that we see in players that return from long absences. And maybe that's wishful thinking on my end, but I think the schedule kind of it bodes well for him kind of integrating back into the lineup a little bit easier than, oh, hey kid, we're going to, make you go skate, 20 games in a row before you're going to get a decent sized break.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it could be. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, the Sharks have a lot of banged up bodies right now. I think tonight was kind of like the last couple of games have kind of been a good example of why the Barracuda are where they are. Because obviously, look if there's injuries on the Sharks, that means guys are getting called up. And well, we talked about this another show that you could catch up on if you haven't watched it already. But it's one of those things where you have to at least acknowledge that the Barracuda are definitely missing some pieces, right? Not only is there injuries on the Barracuda squad that see guys like Tomas Hertl out, but they could really use a guy like a Ryan Carpenter or a Justin Bailey on that team right now. I'm not saying that those guys being down there the whole time would have made this team like a Calder Cup contender, but I think things wouldn't be as dire down there if it wasn't for like the Sharks completely pillaging their forward group, combined with obviously the injuries that the Barracuda have dealt with on their own, missing Tristan Robbins half the year. Now they're without Tomas Hertl. It seems like every time they get a weapon back, they lose another one. So it'll be interesting to see if some of these injuries have been going on for a while, but it'll be interesting to see if they can get a break in, how many of those guys might be able to sneak back into the lineup.
Yeah, no, I think it's, it's always interesting to see the way in which the lineups get shuffled when you've got people returning from, long injury stints or people going on to the IR because,
right.
This particular team has just got a lot of injuries, it seems like, for the team, and maybe it's
the most in the league. I think they've lost the most man games to injury by a pretty significant margin.
Yeah, and so it makes you wonder. Well, they got a bunch of young kids and they got a bunch of veterans, right? So it's probably a lot of young kids getting in the NHL, not really knowing how to play to conserve themselves, getting hurt, and then you got a bunch of old guys, who are stretching it out a little bit, and you get hurt. So
yeah.
Well, I mean, that being said, we'll get into the game, and I mean the game itself. And we'll just start off in that first period. Not really much doing for the Sharks. I mean, Adam Fox ends up getting a goal, his 8th of the year, and that comes in at 7:55 in the first period. Jerry F., thank you so much. My son and I celebrated the awesome Sharks win after all the adversity this year. It feels so great. Thanks for all the great coverage as usual. Thank you so much, Jerry, for the super chat. And
yes, thank you.
We always appreciate it, buddy. So yeah, quickly, I mean, Adam Fox, Lafreniere, and Trocheck getting the assist. Garbage goal, honestly.
Yep.
Yeah, and the Sharks not really doing a great job clearing out the puck in front of the net. We've seen the Sharks give up this kind of goal a lot. But I also feel that after that goal, they tightened up pretty good on defense and felt, for the most part, for the rest of the period, that New York was pretty contained in. And I think overall tonight, I really didn't have too much of a problem with the defensive game, sans that one goal that they had in the first where it was just kind of lazy effort in the defensive zone. But yeah. I mean, what'd you see on it, and kind of what'd you see from the defense that was working tonight?
Yeah, I mean, that goal was a bad goal. I think you hit it right on the head. It's an indicative goal of we've seen a lot of these kind of goals go in. I don't think there was much Mackenzie Blackwood could have done in that situation. Um, yeah, just I mean, it wasn't a good. I thought the Rangers came out pretty hard. Like I was, I kind of thought, okay, like this Rangers team has been kind of fascinating because again, like the Sharks have seemed to keep catching teams at the perfect time. I think they caught the LA Kings at a perfect time yesterday. I think ditto for this Rangers team. This Rangers team's been pretty middling over their last 10. I think that Igor Shesterkin's been pretty human this year. If I'm like I know that they're first in their division. I know they're a good team, but I do have questions about this team when the playoffs start. I think there's issues with this team's construction.
There's some really weird ebbs and flows that I'm seeing with the Rangers that we haven't really seen in teams before. It seems like they let teams hang around a little bit more. It seems like there's just a little less dynamite in Panarin. I mean, Panarin's going to have a great year this year, but maybe a little two-dimensional in the way in which they're playing at times. I feel like sometimes they can kind of get caught up in what they're doing in their own zone, and then kind of bring it through the neutral zone. It kind of breaks down a little bit. And so I think that, and then I also think that they have a little bit of hubris that kind of besets in at times. Because I mean, and we'll go into the second period, and the Blue Shirts would end up scoring a minute and 38 in. Like I said, Artemi Panarin, 29th goal of the year. I mean, he's going to clear 100 points this year. He's a stud. But again, I wonder if the team around him becomes, okay, let's just feed Panarin to the puck, and it becomes, again, very, very two-dimensional type game where they don't stretch out the ice as much. And I mean, Ian, would that particular goal in the second, I mean, you couldn't do anything on that one. It's Panarin and Fox and Miller, and you go from there. It's pretty play, and they end up going 2-0. But besides that, didn't really look all that dangerous. You know what I mean? It's
No,
weird.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I thought that this Rangers team should have been, I think this Rangers team, I think their big issue to me, at least from the Rangers games which I watch, I'm not going to pretend like I'm a huge connoisseur of Ranger games, right? Like I'm not watching, but like the ones where I've watched on and off, where I've watched the Rangers play, I think a lot of their success, like they rely on their goaltending a lot more than they probably should. I don't think they're the tightest team defensively. I think they've got a lot of weapons, right? I don't think there's any doubt there. They've got a lot of firepower, and they've got a lot of firepower from the blue line too. Like I love Adam Fox. I think Keandre Miller has been such a great find for them. I know a lot of people are like they wish that the Sharks went that way instead of Merkley. I don't know if the Sharks developed Keandre Miller the way that, like, for all this shit that the Rangers get about not developing guys, they develop defensemen pretty good, at least on the offensive side of the puck.
And again,
Yeah.
I mean, like we always talk about, it's not only the prospect, but it's the prospect in the particular pipeline.
Yeah, and I would not like. I think Keandre Miller, because it's a guy that gets brought up a lot, and I think the thing with Miller, like, he was such a raw talent coming into the draft.
He reminded kind of me of Taylor Doherty. I mean, right? I mean, just like kind of freak size,
Yeah.
some good attributes, and you're thinking, okay, maybe this is going to be a player in which we could maybe, and has a lot more offensive acumen than a Taylor Doherty, of course. But you know what I mean? It's that the scouts get kind of glazed over by the physical attributes, or they get glazed over by one.
Because he's a physical specimen. Don't get me wrong. I just think like there was a lot of tools in his tool belt that needed a lot of refining, and I wouldn't have trusted the Sharks' development to do it. Not that Ryan Merkley turned out any better, obviously. Like I think kind of similar. It didn't work out, but I understand why Sharks fans would be like, oh man, Keandre Miller was right there. I get it, but I don't have faith that it would have turned out any better than Merkley for the Sharks.
Yeah.
But back on the game, since I keep derailing this. I mean, look at I thought the Rangers were going, but I don't think they just let the Sharks hang around, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of, again, I think the killer instinct. Ian, this is going to sound hilarious because we've been talking about hockey for a long time together. But that looked like an Alain Vigneault coach team.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, just the hallmarks that he always has in his teams, whether it's, lackadaisical defense, you're always stunned by the offense, and, questions in goaltending. And it
Yeah.
haunts him wherever he goes.
I don't know how Merkley's doing in China. I hope you learn Chinese. That's all I know.
Kowloon, right? Isn't that what he's
Yep.
playing? The Red
Yep.
Star? Yeah, Kowloon
Yep.
Red Star.
Hope you
SG.
learn Chinese, buddy.
SG, thanks for being in the chat. Appreciate it, bud. Yeah, no, a quick, again, like you said, Sharks did a pretty good job. With the defense in the second period after the goal. And then I would say in the third period really kind of swung the momentum. It looked like they got better through three periods, and it's interesting because they played the night before. So I don't know, maybe they.
Yeah, no, you know what? That's an amazing point that I wouldn't have even like I knew it true because I was here also last night, and I feel like I'm doing better on my second half of back-to-backs. But yeah, no, I think you know what? That's a really good point that I'm glad you brought that up because I think I would have completely discounted it, the fact that this team got better as the game went on. And I think like if you're a Rangers fan, I can't imagine you being happy with this game because I mean, obviously you take a team like the Sharks on the second hand of back to back. When you're a team like the Rangers, these are games that you should win.
It was a winnable game. I mean, the Sharks are on a second of the back to back. And look at where they are in the standings. I mean, there's not a lot that scares you on the team. And this is what I'm talking about, where they play with their food. So, good on the boys. I mean, again, we wanted to see some pushback and wanted to see a little bit of a spine stiffening with the team. And through this 3-game win streak, that we've seen that. Now, when it starts to go bad again, because it's going to go bad again, that unfortunately the team is just not where it needs to be to compete. Then I just want to again see good defensive efforts and keeping teams within 2 to 3 goals. Again, making sure that they don't leave their goaltender hung out to dry, and again focus on their own system.
Yep.
And when they do that, as evident in the third period. Nico Strum getting an unassisted goal and really kind of kickstarting the team, to get some more offense towards the net. And then we started seeing these pucks coming in from the blue line, and you started to see the D activate a little bit more, and ended up getting the second goal at 4:27. Ryan Carpenter getting a nice little tip in from Jun Rutta and Philip Zadina, and again, Ian, like we had kind of just talked about. Very, very interesting result that they got better as the game went on.
Yeah, I mean, it was just it was a really good effort by the Sharks. I mean, I can't stress that enough. They didn't really do anything. Like they didn't really let up on their play. I thought they played a pretty consistent game. I think when you look at some of the guys that, obviously guys have to come in. Keelan Addison's playing tonight because Mario Ferraro goes down. Mario Ferraro, say what you will about him, but like he does eat a ton of minutes. So I think that's interesting for a team to have to kind of deal with. But, I don't know. I give the Sharks a lot of credit because I think they did. They played their game and they didn't really let their foot off the gas. And they got better as the game went on, which on the second night of back-to-backs against one of the best teams in the league, I mean, you have to be pretty happy with that. If you're David Quinn, I think you should be happy with that too. If you're a Sharks fan, because look at, again, like I know it's 3 wins in a row now, and it's funny how quick this changes, right? But like last week, I mean, remember last week? That wasn't fun. I don't know, man. Like, would I prefer games like this where they end up dropping it at the end of the game or in overtime? I think that would probably be better for the thing, but for the tank. But again, like
You got to
let's
put butts
also
in seats.
remember,
You got to put
yeah, you
butts
got to
in
put
seats.
butts in seats. You want to, I want people to come on here and watch what we do after the game because they're still invested in what the Sharks are doing.
Exactly.
Um, and
Exactly. And you gotta have a little bit of a guidepost to where you're going, right? I mean, it can't always be doom and gloom. You gotta be able
yeah,
to have film to say, guys, this is what you do. This is how you go out and you attack in an overtime. This is how a Tomas Hertl, he set up, his overtime winner, at a minute and 29 in, his 15th of the year, and Rutta and Barabanov doing tic-tac-toe right at the goal line. You can
yeah,
point to that and go, guys, when we focus and we pull the rope in one effort, this is the kind of stuff we can do. So
yeah.
I totally feel you. I am totally on, me needing to be on Team Tank, and that is what's going to be most beneficial for the
But
organization.
but it is still a lottery. Finishing dead last doesn't guarantee anything.
Right. However, I'd rather set us up in a position to get that pick
Sure.
and, keep the games close and have some good fundamentals and have some tape in which you can go, guys, next year, it's not going to be so doom and gloom. We get a first overall pick. You add a player of the caliber of that. You inject a little bit more. You get a little bit more savvy in the free agency in the offseason, dump a little bit more, make this thing a lean, mean machine. And then next year you start to make little strides. And again, you point to those hard times. You point to those solid victories. You point to those executed plays that are done well. And that's
Yeah.
how you build forward.
Yeah. 100%. Like I think, I think, and the other things for those people that I think are concerned about the tank, I think this is the only game of the last three that I actually thought the Sharks actually deserved to win. So I think there's that too. Because I
Yeah.
don't think they played a particularly great game against the Ducks. I don't think they played a particularly great game against the Kings, right? And they wanted a shootout. I think that this game was the only one where I really thought, okay, yeah, like they won and they probably deserve to win this game. The losses are going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not worried about the losses. They're coming.
Oh, yeah.
But when you go, when you go through a stretch of whatever games it was, 10, 13, 11 games of nothing, and then and you get one win and then you lose a couple more, like it's not, I've said this a lot this year, like you have to enjoy these wins because they're going to come within a heap of losses, and as good as they played tonight, the losses are coming back.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, let's not delude ourselves, right? I mean, it's a matter of time.
Maybe not next game. I mean, they're playing the Sabres next game, but
Oh my God, we talk about the Sabres. I mean, you talk about an organization that is just. I mean, I have no idea what to do with this thing, Ian. I mean, what do you do? What do you do?
it's so. I mean, they could rack up some points. I mean, Seattle's an interesting team this year. But then it's Anaheim again. Like the schedule does get a little bit soft as it goes down. We've talked about this too, where the schedule does get a little bit softer. But I mean, I look at some of these teams and I still see some pain coming up because there's going to be teams that are yes, there's going to be the other teams that the Sharks are going to have to play that they're kind of racing to the bottom with, but there's going to be teams in the that are going to roll into town and they're going to go visit where they're fighting for their playoff lives in some cases.
Yeah. Oh, and I mean, we also, I think, kind of a little understated. I mean, we talked about Couture returning, but I think Sturm, Nico Sturm returning, and again, just putting the pieces, at least the centers, where they need to be. But
yeah,
again, it's kind of what you sort of envisioned, but again, I'm under no delusions. I mean, the team is where it is because of the void of talent. Getting the players back off of injured reserve is great, and seeing them, be able to skate.
Yeah,
And
I can't I mean, and look at, and again, it's been really good, right? But it's like, but Logan Couture is not going to single-handedly break the tank.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And then I'd also think that
I'm hoping that that's not a take that's going to age like milk. But I mean, because tonight I thought it was going to. He's going to score the overtime goal. I'm like, man, that's the worst take I've ever had. I don't think he's going to single-handedly bust this thing up.
No, and I also think that Greer will probably start moving pieces before that would happen anyways.
Oh yeah, trade deadline's coming. I mean, this team isn't mine, right?
Yeah, I mean, and again, I'm gonna be curious as to what they can do as far as getting rid of pieces, or at least trying to recoup some assets for some expiring pieces. Try to get some takers on some big ticket items. Who knows what's gonna happen. Because all it takes is one injury and a GM getting a wild hair. So,
yeah.
All right, Ian. Well, I mean, that kind of ends up the game tonight with Tomas Hertl getting the overtime winner, and the Sharks prevailing 3-2. Get to see the team get the win. Blackwood get the win. Getting a 935. Lots of scouts were in the building tonight, so it seems like there might be some pieces on the move, maybe some interest with the team. But I mean, where do you see the team kind of going into the All-Star break, and what do you kind of see on the horizon?
I mean, I see like they've got a really interesting schedule coming up because there's definitely going to be some opportunities to pick up points. Buffalo and Sharks in the afternoon, generally not good. So there is that on their hand on Buffalo. Seattle's going to be an interesting team because Seattle's kind of been all over the place this year. Anaheim, Anaheim's interesting because like that's a team that you're racing to the bottom with. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's definitely going to be opportunities to pick up points coming forward here, so the trade deadline can't come soon enough. But I don't know, man. Like I still think that we've seen this team kind of, have a little bit of a hot streak, and then it's been sandwiched with a lot of pain. So we'll see what happens.
Molasses bump. Yeah, exactly. I don't think we've seen the last of the pain. That is for sure. Well, in case you miss it and you want to check us out again, be sure to check us out on the YouTube by liking, subscribing, and smashing that bell button. It tells you when we go live. But if we go live after every game. And of course, you can check us out across all of the podcasting platforms, that being the Apple Podcast Store, the Google Play Store, the YouTube Rewind, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Odyssey, and then, of course, we always have all of that and more up on tealtownusa.com. And again, I mean, a pleasure to be joined by Ian. Ian, what are your final thoughts and where the people can find you? Oh, sorry, Ian. Let me. I'll kind of go over my final thoughts on where the people can find me. First, you can use my first name, that's Erik, last name Landi, across all the social media garbage. And as far as my final thoughts go, again, I'm just excited to see good efforts on the ice. I'm excited to see that the team is coming together around the players coming off of the IR. And again, I just want to build those good foundations. Maybe not take yourself too far out of the running for first overall, but again, give us something to cheer about every once in a great while. Ian, what are your final thoughts and where the people can find you?
Final thoughts are the same thing I started the show with. When the Sharks do good, it's good. I know people get mad when they win, but when the Sharks do good, it's good. And you can find me on Twitter at Ian Blogs Hockey. You can also, again, I've done a couple shows recently, so check those out and check out everything else we do because that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Ian, for hopping on with me. I really appreciate it and always talking puck with us. You can check him out across all of the Teal Town properties. Sometimes he makes a guest appearance on Pucknologist. Sometimes he does a Teal Town, Teal tinted glasses, and we love Ian. And then, of course, you can always check out Pucknologist on Sunday at 7 p.m. And you can always check us out after every single Sharks game. I know we do it after all 82. It's crazy, folks. And of course, we always end it with a keep it real, keep it teal, and a keep it real teal. And thank you, everybody. And we'll catch you after the next game on Buffalo on Saturday. Have a great evening.